Was it just a bad week, or are the Cubs getting another case of the May blues? With the Cubs losing back-to-back series and going 2-4 this last week, many Cubs fans were wondering, are they reverting back to their 2023 and 2024 May collapses, which is a reasonable question to ask. After all, it was very similar trends in those 2 years, really good Aprils followed by really bad Mays. How bad? This bad. In 23, they went 10-18 at 3.6 runs per game with a slash line of 233, 320, 376. And in 2024, the same 10-18 record, nearly the same runs per game at 3.5, and an even worse slash line at 217, 299, and 348. Now, the difference in the 2025 team is that they've only played 10 games in May. They're actually 5-5, so it's not like they're collapsing or anything, but after a really bad week, essentially going 2-4 against the Mets and Giants, plus a loss against the Brewers, that's a 2-5 record after a team that had been really on fire for much of the first part of the year. But an even bigger difference in the 2025 team, and how I'm going to spread some hope for you Cubs fans, is that by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly why I think there's just one player and one reason that the Cubs are slumping right now. And yes, the bullpen sucks, and yes, the starting rotation is really banged up, and once again, yes, they played two of the best teams in baseball in the Mets and Giants. But as Cubs fans, our hearts don't forget about these terrible Mays in the last 2 years. Now, before I get into the solution, make sure you've joined our free Facebook group. It's down below. It's a great way to connect with us. And this week, we are releasing our brand new version of what we're calling the Dugout, and it's a way for you to actually hang out with me and all the Setup Man crew. Make sure you go check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. So before I talk about what this solution is, let's just dive into the numbers. I did a lot of research on some splits here, and I want you to see just what I'm seeing. So far in 2025, in March and April, the Cubs were 18-13. They were scoring 5.9 runs per game. They had a slash line, a really impressive slash line of 263, 341, and 451 with 1.4 stolen bases per game. Now, let's be realistic. 5.9 runs per game with that impressive of a slash line. I mean, we're pushing right there almost an 800 team OPS, plus nearly a stolen base and a half per game. Is that sustainable? The answer to that is probably no, but it still doesn't mean there has to be a huge drop-off, and essentially that's kind of what's happened here in May. At a 5-5 record, they're scoring an entire run less per game. Their slash line has become pretty miserable at 218, 294, 398, and they've dropped almost a full stolen base per game at just 0.5 stolen bases per game. Even worse, in the last 7 games, they're 2-5 with just 3.6 runs per game. A really terrible slash line at 188, 270, 314, and once again hovering around that half a stolen base per game. So the real question is April the outlier or is May the outlier? And the numbers probably are going to tell us that May might just be too small of a sample size, given the fact that they also played two of the best teams in baseball, including the Mets, who have the best team ERA in baseball. But it got me thinking, because we keep asking, is the difference in the offense this year Kyle Tucker? Well, it has to work both ways then, right? If Kyle Tucker's doing well, the offense is doing well. If Kyle Tucker's not doing well, the offense is not doing well. And let's look at what I found with the numbers. So Kyle Tucker in his last 16 games is 11 for 60. That's a slash line of 183, 310, and 333. Your best slugger on the team is slugging 333, guys. In that span of 16 games, only 3 home runs and no other extra base hits. The good part about Kyle Tucker is that even when he's struggling, he's not a liability, as he's walked 11 times in these 16 games and only struck out 9. But compare this to basically the MVP caliber player that the Cubs had in the first 25 games, and this is a major drop-off. So how does this impact the Cubs offense in the last 16 games? Well, take a look at the numbers. As you can see, we're looking at the last 16 versus the first 25 games. Cubs were 15-10, now 8-8 in their last 16. They were scoring 6.2 runs per game, now scoring 4.8. They were getting 9.4 hits per game, now getting just 7.9. The slash line was incredible at 265, 344, 462. Now it's 233, 307, 400. And they're hitting as a team almost 1 full extra base hit less per game. They were at 3.7 extra base hits per game, now at 2.9. And again, in the base running department, down a half a stolen base per game. They were at 1.4, now at just 0.9. So why is Kyle Tucker struggling? Well, I don't think we have to look too deep into that. We saw what happened in spring training and how quickly he came out of that as soon as the season started. I think this is just a one-game thing. If anything, it kind of looks like maybe he's been pulling off the ball. Maybe he's been trying to trying to push the slug a little bit. I don't know. I'm not going to go into that right now, but he could snap out of this just like that. And if he does, the numbers show us that that means the entire offense will follow. So the answer is simply get Kyle Tucker right, and there's no time like the present to do that. In the next 21 games, as you see the schedule here, the Cubs will face the Marlins, the White Sox, the Reds, the Rockies, and the Nationals, all in some combination of that, especially facing the Reds and Marlins twice. Combined, all these teams are 71 and 132 for a winning percentage of just .350. At the end of the day, we knew the Cubs' first 41 games of the season were the toughest in Major League Baseball, and for that reason, to be 23 and 18 right now is a pretty good place to be sitting. Could we be a little bit better after just a really bad week? Had they gone, call it, instead of 2-5, maybe 3-4, maybe 4-3. Yeah, you're looking at a much better record. But now with this really easy schedule, and I do use the word easy because that's exactly how the Cubs need to approach this, is they need to pound these teams into the ground. Kyle Tucker needs to get back to that 1,000 OPS stretch that he was on, looking like the MVP guy he was, and the entire offense should follow. Of course, they still have to figure out the bullpen situation. There's some defensive things they need to figure out, and they need to get Shota Imanaga healthy. But if this all happens in the next 21 games, the Cubs win 15 of them, we forget about the May Blues. We move on to June as a first-place team, just continuing to roll down this 2025 season. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and put my arm on ice, Setup Nation.